Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. Peter's head throbbed as consciousness slowly returned. He blinked, trying to focus his bleary vision. Cold metal pressed against his back, and a faint hum reverberated through the air. This wasn't his bedroom. Panic surged through him as memories flooded back. The blinding light, the sensation of being lifted. Then, nothing. He tried to move, but invisible bonds held him in place. A blue-tinged force field flickered around him, containing him in a cylindrical chamber. Beyond it, sleek metal walls curved upward, dotted with pulsing lights and strange symbols. "Hello?" Peter called out, his voice cracking. "Is anyone there?" Silence answered him. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time seemed to stretch and warp in this strange prison. Peter drifted in and out of consciousness, his mind racing with questions. Where was he? Who had taken him? Why? Finally, a door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Two figures entered, tall, humanoid, but definitely not human. Their skin was a pale lavender, with elongated limbs and large almond-shaped eyes. They wore flowing robes adorned with intricate patterns. One of them tapped at a control panel, and the force field around Peter disappeared. Before he could react, they grabbed his arms, hauling him to his feet. "Wait!" Peter struggled against their grip. "Where are you taking me? What's going on?" The aliens exchanged glances, then spoke in a musical language Peter couldn't understand. They half dragged, half carried him out of the room and down a long corridor. Peter's heart raced as they approached a set of ornate doors. They slid open, revealing a cavernous chamber that took his breath away. Soaring ceilings stretched overhead, adorned with shimmering crystals that cast prismatic light across the room. Alien beings of various shapes and hues milled about, their clothing a riot of colors and textures. At the far end, atop a raised dais, sat the most beautiful woman, if she could be called that, Peter had ever seen. Her skin was a deep, mesmerizing azure, smooth as polished sapphire. Delicate patterns swirled across her bare arms and shoulders, seeming to shimmer as she moved. Her features were undeniably alien, yet hauntingly beautiful. High cheekbones, full lips, and eyes that glowed with an inner light. A circlet of iridescent metal rested on her brow, partially obscured by cascading locks of hair that shimmered like starlight. Peter's captors thrust him forward, forcing him to his knees before the dais. A hush fell over the chamber. A male alien with deep purple skin and piercing yellow eyes stepped forward. When he spoke, Peter was shocked to find he could understand the words. Some kind of universal translator must be at work. "Your Highness," the alien said, bowing low, "I, Nigon, bring before you a gift to demonstrate my devotion and my worthiness as a suitor for your hand." He gestured dramatically toward Peter. "Behold, an exotic creature from a distant world, a pet unlike any other in the galaxy. I present him to you in hopes that his uniqueness might bring you joy and secure your favor." Peter's jaw dropped. A pet? They thought he was some kind of animal? The blue-skinned woman, clearly royalty of some kind, leaned forward, her luminous eyes widening with interest. "Fascinating," she murmured. "I've never seen anything quite like it. What world did you say it came from?" "A primitive planet called Earth, Your Highness," Nigon replied. "The natives there are simple creatures, but this specimen is particularly fine. I had it specially selected for you." Peter bristled at being discussed like livestock. He opened his mouth to protest, but a sharp jab from one of his captors silenced him. The alien princess rose from her throne, gliding down the steps with fluid grace. She circled Peter slowly, studying him from every angle. He felt exposed under her penetrating gaze. "It does seem intelligent," she mused. "Look at those eyes. There's awareness there." She knelt before Peter, bringing her face close to his. Can you understand me, little one? Peter nodded emphatically, hope surging through him. Yes, yes, I can understand you. Please, there's been a terrible mistake. I'm not a pet, I'm a sentient being. But his words came out as unintelligible gibberish. Whatever translation effect was at work, it clearly didn't extend to him. The princess's brow furrowed in confusion. How curious, she said. It seems to be trying to communicate. She reached out, running her fingers through Peter's hair. Despite his predicament, he couldn't help but shiver at her touch. Such an unusual texture. She turned to Nigon, beaming. It's wonderful, Nigon. Truly a unique gift. I shall treasure it always. Nigon bowed deeply. I live to serve, Your Highness. Perhaps we might discuss our betrothal over dinner this evening. The princess waved a hand dismissively. Yes, yes, we'll speak later. For now, I wish to spend time with my new pet. She clapped her hands and 2 attendants hurried forward. Take it to my private chambers. I'll be along shortly. As the attendants led Peter away, he craned his neck for one last look at the alien princess. She was already deep in conversation with Nigon, who wore a smug expression. Peter's mind raced. He had to find a way to communicate, to make them understand he wasn't some dumb animal. But how? The princess's chambers were as opulent as Peter had imagined. Shimmering fabrics draped the walls, and strange plants with luminescent flowers filled the corners. A massive bed dominated one wall, piled high with silken pillows. The attendants deposited Peter in the center of the room and departed without a word. Left alone, he paced nervously, trying to formulate a plan. He had to make the princess understand somehow, before things got even more out of hand. The door slid open, and the blue-skinned beauty herself entered. She changed into a flowing gown that left little to the imagination, the fabric clinging to her curves in ways that made Peter's mouth go dry. He quickly averted his eyes, reminding himself of the gravity of his situation. "Hello, my little pet," she cooed, approaching him with a radiant smile. "I'm Princess Saya, and what shall I call you, I wonder?" Peter pointed to himself. "Peter," he said clearly. "My name is Peter." Saya tilted her head. "Peter," she repeated, stumbling over the unfamiliar syllables. "Is that your name? How delightful!" She reached out to stroke his cheek, and Peter jerked back instinctively. Saya frowned. Now, no need to be afraid. I won't hurt you." Peter shook his head frantically, trying to convey his distress. He pointed to himself again, then mimed writing in the air. Saya's eyes lit up. "Oh, you want to play a game? How clever you are!" She clapped her hands in delight. "But first, we simply must get you out of these strange coverings. They can't be comfortable." Before Peter could react, Saya's nimble fingers were plucking at his shirt. He tried to squirm away, but she was surprisingly strong for her slender frame. "Hold still, silly creature," she laughed. "Don't you want to be more comfortable?" With a firm tug, she pulled Peter's shirt over his head. He yelped in surprise, arms instinctively crossing over his chest. Saya's eyes widened as she took in his bare torso. "By the stars," she breathed. "You're even more fascinating than I imagined." Her gaze raked over him appreciatively. Such defined musculature. And this coloring, I've never seen anything like it. Peter's face burned as Saya circled him, her fingers trailing lightly across his skin. Despite his embarrassment, he couldn't help but react to her touch. She was, after all, incredibly beautiful, even if she was an alien who thought he was a pet. "Now for these lower coverings," Saya declared, reaching for the waistband of Peter's jeans. He leapt backward, shaking his head vigorously. Saya pouted. "Oh, don't be difficult. I need to examine you properly to ensure you're healthy." Peter cast about desperately for a distraction. His eyes landed on a gleaming table nearby, covered in what looked like writing implements. He darted toward it, snatching up a stylus-like object. Saya watched curiously as Peter began to draw on the smooth surface of the table. His artistic skills were rudimentary at best, but he managed a crude stick figure of himself, then another of Saya. He drew a speech bubble coming from his mouth, filling it with scribbled lines to represent words. "Oh, how clever!" Saya exclaimed. "You can make marks, but what do they mean?" She leaned in close, studying the drawing. Her proximity sent Peter's pulse racing. "Is this meant to be us?" Peter nodded emphatically. He pointed to the speech bubble, then to his mouth, trying to convey that he could speak. Saya's brow furrowed. "I'm not sure I understand, little one, but it's all right. We have plenty of time to learn each other's ways." She patted his head affectionately. "Now, let's continue your examination, shall we?" Before Peter could protest, Saya's hands were at his waist again. With a swift motion, she tugged his jeans down to his ankles. Peter yelped, scrambling to cover himself with his hands. Saya's eyes went wide. "Great moons of Zyrax," she breathed. "You're anatomically compatible with my species. How extraordinary." A mischievous glint entered her eye. "I wonder." She reached out and Peter backpedaled frantically. His heel caught on his fallen jeans, sending him tumbling backward onto the bed. Saya pounced, pinning him with surprising strength. Now, she chided playfully. "I need to finish my inspection. Hold still, you naughty thing." Peter squirmed helplessly as Saya's hands roamed over his body. Despite his predicament, he couldn't help but respond to her touch. My, Saya murmured, a sultry note entering her voice. "You're quite responsive, aren't you? I wonder if all Earth creatures are so sensitive." She leaned in close, her breath hot against Peter's ear. "Perhaps we should conduct some more thorough experiments." A loud chime interrupted whatever Saya had been about to do next. She sat up with a frustrated sigh. "Blast! That'll be nigh-gone, right on schedule." She climbed off Peter, smoothing her gown. "We'll have to continue this later, my pet. For now, you should rest." She tapped a control panel, and a shimmering force field sprang up around the bed, trapping Peter. He sat up, gesturing frantically, trying one last time to communicate. Saya blew him a kiss. "Sleep well, my little Peter. I'll return soon, and we can play some more." With that, she swept out of the room, leaving Peter alone with his thoughts. He flopped back onto the silken sheets, mind reeling. How had his life taken such a surreal turn? And more importantly, how was he going to convince these aliens he was a sentient being before things got even more out of hand? As the lights in the chamber dimmed, Peter's last conscious thought was a fervent hope that he'd wake up from this bizarre dream. But deep down, he knew. His adventure on this alien world was only just beginning. Peter awoke to the soft chime of an alien alarm. For a moment he forgot where he was, expecting to see his cramped apartment back on Earth. Instead, he found himself surrounded by the opulent furnishings of Princess Saya's chambers. Reality crashed back. He wasn't dreaming. He really had been abducted by aliens and given as a pet to a beautiful blue-skinned princess. The force field around the bed shimmered and vanished. Peter sat up, rubbing his neck. A dull ache pulsed at the base of his skull, probably from the stress of yesterday's ordeal. The door slid open, and Saya swept in, radiant as ever. "Good morning, my little Peter. Did you sleep well?" Peter opened his mouth to respond, but only gibberish came out. He frowned, frustrated by his inability to communicate. Saya's eyes lit up. "Oh, you're trying to speak again. How adorable." She patted his head affectionately. "Don't worry, we'll work on that. But first, let's get you dressed. Can't have you running around naked all day, can we?" She produced a simple tunic and loose pants, helping Peter into them despite his awkward attempts to dress himself. The fabric was impossibly soft, almost liquid against his skin. "There," Saya said, stepping back to admire her handiwork. "Much better. Now, are you hungry? I've had the kitchen prepare some Earth-compatible food for you." Peter's stomach growled in response. Saya laughed, a musical sound that sent shivers down his spine. "I'll take that as a yes. Come along then." She led him to an adjoining room where a low table was set with an array of colorful dishes. Peter approached cautiously, sniffing at the unfamiliar aromas. "Go on," Saya encouraged. "It's all safe for you to eat. I had our xenobiologist analyze your physiology." Hesitantly, Peter sampled a purple fruit. Flavor exploded across his tongue, sweet and tangy, unlike anything he'd tasted before. His eyes widened in surprise. Saya clapped her hands in delight. "You like it? Oh, I'm so pleased. Here, try this one next." They spent the next hour with Saya hand-feeding Peter various alien delicacies. Despite his predicament, he found himself enjoying the experience. Saya's enthusiasm was infectious, and her fingers lingered perhaps a bit longer than necessary each time she brought food to his lips. After the meal, Saya stood. "Now then, it's time to begin your education. We can't have you being an ignorant pet, can we? You must learn about Zoralis if you're to be a proper companion." Over the next few weeks, a routine developed. Each morning, Saya would arrive to feed and dress Peter. Then she'd spend hours teaching him about Zoralesian culture, history, and language. To Peter's shock, he found himself absorbing the alien tongue with surprising ease. One day, as Saya was explaining the intricacies of Zoralesian etiquette, Peter felt a sharp pain at the base of his skull. He winced, reaching back to rub the spot. Saya's eyes widened. "What's wrong, Peter? Are you hurt?" Peter opened his mouth to reassure her and froze. For the first time since his arrival, intelligible words came out. I can speak," Saya gasped, leaping back. "Great moons of Zyrax. You can talk?" Peter nodded frantically. Yes. I've been trying to tell you all along. I'm not a pet. I'm a sentient being." Saya's face paled to a lighter shade of blue. But how is this possible? Nigon said you were just an animal." "He lied," Peter said firmly. "I'm from Earth, yes, but we're an advanced civilization. Nigon kidnapped me and brought me here under false pretenses." Saya sank into a chair, her mind visibly reeling. I don't understand. Why would Nigon do such a thing?" Peter knelt before her, taking her hands in his. The contact sent a jolt through him. "I don't know. But please, you have to believe me. I'm just as intelligent as you are. I have hopes, dreams, a life back on Earth." Saya stared into his eyes, searching. I think I do believe you. There was always something in your eyes. I knew you were special, but I never imagined." She reached out, tracing Peter's jawline with trembling fingers. "All this time, I've been treating you like— Oh, stars, I'm so embarrassed." Peter caught her hand, pressing it to his cheek. "Don't be. You've been kind to me, even if you didn't understand what I was, and I've grown quite fond of you, Saya." Their eyes locked, tension crackling between them. Saya leaned in, her lips parting slightly. A sharp knock at the door made them jump apart. "Your Highness," a voice called. "Lord Nigon requests an audience." Saya's expression hardened. "We're not finished with this conversation, Peter. Stay here. I'll deal with Nigon and then we'll get to the bottom of this." She swept out of the room, leaving Peter alone with his racing thoughts. He paced anxiously, wondering what would happen now. Would Saya believe him fully? Would she help him get home? And what about the growing attraction between them? Hours passed. Peter tried to distract himself by reviewing the Zoralesian texts Saya had been teaching him, but he couldn't focus. Finally, the door slid open. Saya entered, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. Peter, I I don't know what to think. Nigon swears he had no idea you were sentient. He claims the traders he got you from must have deceived him. Peter's heart sank. You can't believe that. Seiya, he's lying. I overheard him talking to his men. He's planning something to do with overthrowing your family's rule. Seiya's eyes widened. That's a very serious accusation, Peter. Do you have any proof? Peter deflated. No, just what I overheard. But Seiya, please. You know me now. You know I wouldn't lie to you. Seiya bit her lip, conflict clear on her face. I want to believe you, Peter. But Nigon has been a trusted advisor to my family for years, and I've only known you for a few weeks. How can I be sure? Peter stepped closer, taking her hands in his. Then give me a chance to prove myself. Let me show you that I'm telling the truth. Seiya searched his eyes for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but we'll have to be careful. If what you're saying is true, Nigon is dangerous. We can't let him know we suspect anything. Over the next few days, Peter and Seiya grew closer as they worked together to uncover the truth. They pored over palace records, looking for any discrepancies in Nigon's past. Peter taught Seiya about Earth customs and technology, while she continued his education in Zoralesian ways. As they spent more time together, the attraction between them intensified. Lingering glances turned to accidental touches. Seiya's flirtations became bolder, and Peter found himself responding in kind. One evening, as they sat poring over star charts in Seiya's private study, their hands brushed. Electricity crackled between them. Peter looked up to find Seiya's luminous eyes fixed on him, dark with desire. Peter, she breathed, I can't fight this any longer. She leaned in, capturing his lips in a searing kiss. Peter's mind went blank, overwhelmed by sensation. Seiya's skin was cool and smooth against his, her scent intoxicating. He pulled her closer, deepening the kiss. Seiya moaned softly, her fingers tangling in his hair. For a moment, the universe narrowed to just the two of them, lost in each other's embrace. Finally, they broke apart, both breathing heavily. Seiya's cheeks were flushed a deeper blue. That was amazing, Peter finished. He cupped her face gently. Seiya, I think I'm falling in love with you. Joy lit up her features. Oh, Peter, I think I love you too, but what are we going to do? You're from another world and I'm next in line for the throne. How can this possibly work? Before Peter could respond, alarms blared throughout the palace. Seiya leapt to her feet. What in the name of the 7 moons is going on? The door burst open, and one of Seiya's advisors rushed in. Your Highness, we're under attack. Rebel forces have breached the outer defenses. Seiya's face hardened. Nigon, she spat. It has to be. He's making his move. She turned to Peter, her eyes blazing. You were right. I'm so sorry I doubted you. Peter squeezed her hand. It's all right. What matters now is stopping him. What can I do to help? Seiya hesitated, then nodded firmly. Come with me. If we're going to save my people, we'll need to work together. They raced through the palace corridors, the sounds of battle growing louder. Guards rushed past, weapons at the ready. Seiya led Peter to a hidden chamber, pressing her hand to a biometric scanner. The wall slid open, revealing an arsenal of advanced weaponry. Seiya grabbed a sleek rifle, tossing another to Peter. I hope you're a quick study. We're going to need every advantage we can get. Peter hefted the weapon, surprised to find it lighter than it looked. I'll do my best, but Seiya, are you sure about this? It's dangerous out there. Seiya's eyes flashed. This is my home, Peter, my people. I won't abandon them. She softened slightly, touching his cheek. But I understand if you don't want to fight. This isn't your battle. Peter shook his head firmly. No, I'm with you all the way. Whatever happens, we face it together. Gratitude and love shone in Seiya's eyes. She leaned in, kissing him fiercely. Together then. Now come on. We have a traitor to stop and a planet to save. They emerged into chaos. The once pristine halls of the palace were filled with smoke and the crackle of energy weapons. Rebel soldiers clashed with loyal guards while panicked civilians fled for safety. Peter and Saya fought their way through the melee, covering each other's backs. Peter was amazed at how naturally they worked together, anticipating each other's moves as if they'd been partners for years. They battled their way to the throne room where they found Negon, resplendent in ornate battle armor. He sneered as they burst through the doors. "Ah, the princess and her pet. How touching. I'm afraid you're too late, my dear. The throne is mine now." Saya raised her weapon. "It's over, Negon. Surrender and you might yet be shown mercy." Negon laughed cruelly. "Mercy? Oh, you naive child. There's no room for mercy in ruling an empire." He drew a wicked-looking blade. "I'll give you one chance to kneel before me. Otherwise, I'm afraid this will get rather messy." Peter stepped forward, placing himself between Saya and Negon. "You'll have to go through me first." Negon's eyes narrowed. "So, the pet speaks. I should have known you'd be trouble. No matter. I'll enjoy putting you down." He lunged forward with inhuman speed. Peter barely managed to dodge, the blade whistling past his ear. Saya opened fire, but Negon's armor deflected the shots. The battle raged across the throne room, a deadly dance of blade and energy blasts. Peter and Saya fought in perfect synchronization, but Negon was a formidable opponent. His enhanced strength and reflexes kept him one step ahead. Just when it seemed they might prevail, Negon executed a lightning-fast maneuver. His blade flashed out, catching Peter across the chest. He stumbled backward, gasping in pain. "Peter!" Saya cried out in anguish. She rushed to his side, leaving herself exposed. Negon grinned triumphantly, raising his weapon for a killing blow. "And so falls the house of Xyrax. Goodbye, princess." Time seemed to slow. Peter saw the blade descending toward Saya, saw the fear in her eyes. With the last of his strength, he lunged forward, tackling her out of the way. Pain exploded through him as Negon's blade found its mark. The last thing Peter heard was Saya's anguished scream before darkness claimed him. Pain. Blinding, all-encompassing pain was the first thing Peter registered as consciousness slowly returned. He tried to open his eyes, but even that small movement sent waves of agony through his body. "He's waking up!" Saya's voice, tight with worry, came from somewhere nearby. "Peter? Peter? Can you hear me?" Peter managed a weak groan in response. Cool fingers brushed his forehead, and he felt the press of Saya's lips against his cheek. "Thank the stars," she whispered. "I thought I'd lost you." With monumental effort, Peter forced his eyes open. He was in a dim, cramped space that swayed and vibrated. Some kind of vehicle? Saya's beautiful blue face hovered above him, etched with concern. What happened?" Peter croaked, his throat dry and raw. Saya's expression darkened. "Negon almost killed you. If it weren't for Kraz's quick thinking, we'd both be dead." A gruff voice chimed in from somewhere out of Peter's field of vision. "Don't give me too much credit, princess. I was just in the right place at the right time." Peter turned his head slightly, wincing at the movement. A burly, green-skinned alien sat at what appeared to be the controls of their transport. He gave Peter a toothy grin. "Glad to see you're still with us, Earthling. You've got more fight in you than I expected." "Kraz is an old friend," Saya explained. "He got us out of the palace and is taking us somewhere safe to regroup." Peter tried to sit up, but pain lanced through his chest. He gasped, falling back. "Easy there," Saya soothed, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Negon's blade went deep. We've stabilized you, but you need time to heal." "But the palace," Peter protested weakly. Your people. Saya's eyes flashed with determination. We'll get it back. I promise you that. But first, we need a plan, and you need to recover. Over the next few days, as Peter drifted in and out of consciousness, he pieced together what had happened. Kraz, a former royal guard turned smuggler, had been in the palace gathering intelligence on Nigon's coup when chaos erupted. He'd found Saya cradling Peter's bleeding form and managed to get them both to safety. Now, they were en route to a hidden rebel base, where loyalists to Saya's family had been gathering strength. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As Peter's strength slowly returned, he and Saya spent long hours planning their next move. In quiet moments, their connection deepened. Stolen kisses and tender caresses spoke of feelings too powerful for words. One night, as they lay side by side in the cramped sleeping quarters, Saya turned to Peter, her luminous eyes serious in the dim light. "Peter," she whispered, "I need you to know, if we don't make it through this." Peter silenced her with a gentle finger to her lips. "We will. I'm not leaving your side, Saya. Whatever happens, we face it together." Saya's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. She leaned in, kissing him with a passion that took his breath away. As clothes were shed and bodies entwined, Peter marveled at how perfectly they fit together, despite their alien anatomies. In that moment, nothing else mattered but the connection between them. Afterward, as they lay tangled in each other's arms, Saya traced idle patterns on Peter's chest. "Tell me about Earth," she murmured. "What's it like there?" Peter described his home world, painting pictures with words of towering cities, vast oceans, and the rich tapestry of human cultures. Saya listened, enraptured. "It sounds wonderful," she sighed. "I wish I could see it someday." Peter's heart clenched. He realized he hadn't thought about Earth in days. The idea of returning home, of leaving Saya behind, was suddenly unbearable. "Maybe you will," he said softly. "When this is all over, maybe we could find a way to be together, whether here or there." Saya propped herself up on an elbow, studying his face intently. "You'd do that? Leave your world behind?" Peter nodded without hesitation. "For you? In a heartbeat." Saya's smile could have outshone the stars. Their idyllic bubble was shattered the next morning when Kraz burst into their quarters, his face grim. "We've got trouble," he growled. "Nigon's forces have picked up our trail. We need to move now." What followed was a harrowing chase across the Zoralesian wilderness. Kraz's piloting skills were put to the test as they dodged energy blasts and navigated treacherous canyons. Peter and Saya manned the defensive systems, working in perfect sync to keep their pursuers at bay. Just when it seemed they might escape, a lucky shot clipped their engine. Kraz wrestled with the controls as they plummeted toward the surface. "Brace for impact," he roared. Peter threw himself over Saya, shielding her with his body as they crashed. The world dissolved into chaos and pain. When the dust settled, Peter found himself pinned beneath a twisted sheet of metal. He could hear Saya calling his name, panic in her voice. "I'm here," he called back, wincing at the effort. "I'm okay. Are you hurt?" "No, just shaken," Saya replied, relief evident in her tone. "Hang on, we'll get you out." With Kraz's help, they managed to free Peter from the wreckage. As they surveyed the smoking remains of their transport, the gravity of their situation sank in. "Well," Kraz said, his usual gruff humor strained, "I don't suppose either of you know how to pull a spare spaceship out of thin air?" Peter's mind raced. They were stranded in hostile territory, with Nigon's forces undoubtedly closing in. But as he looked at Saya, seeing the determination in her eyes, an idea began to form. "Maybe we don't need a ship," he said slowly. "Maybe this is our chance to turn the tables." Over the next hour, as they hiked away from the crash site, Peter outlined his plan. It was risky, borderline insane, but it just might work. "You want us to let Nigon capture us?" Saya asked incredulously. "Peter, that's suicide." Peter shook his head. "Not capture exactly. We'll surrender, on our terms. Think about it. Nigon's whole claim to power rests on the idea that he's protecting Zoralis from outside threats, right? What better way to cement his rule than by publicly executing the traitorous princess and her alien consort?" Understanding dawned in Saya's eyes. "And when he brings us to the capital for a show trial, we'll have our chance to expose his lies," Peter finished. "But we'll need help on the inside. Kraz, do you still have contacts in the palace?" The grizzled smuggler nodded slowly, a grin spreading across his face. "A few, and I think I know just the ones for this job. You're either a genius or completely insane, Earthling, possibly both." Saya took Peter's hand, squeezing it tightly. "It's dangerous. If anything goes wrong—" Peter met her gaze steadily. "I know, but it's our best shot. I believe in us, Saya. Together, we can do this." She searched his eyes for a long moment, then nodded. Together. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Kraz made contact with his allies in the capital, setting their plan in motion. Peter and Saya rehearsed their roles, fine-tuning every detail. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. They stood atop a hill overlooking a Zoralesian military outpost, hands raised in surrender. "I hope you know what you're doing," Saya muttered as alarms blared and armed guards rushed toward them. Peter gave her a wink. "Trust me." Their capture and subsequent transport to the capital went exactly as planned. News of Princess Saya's apprehension spread like wildfire across Zoralis. By the time they arrived at the palace, crowds had gathered to witness the spectacle. Nigon was waiting for them in the throne room, resplendent in his ill-gotten finery. His smug smile made Peter's blood boil, but he forced himself to remain calm. "Welcome home, Your Highness," Nigon sneered. "I'm so glad you could join us for this momentous occasion. Your public trial will be the perfect way to usher in my new era of rule." Saya lifted her chin defiantly. "You won't get away with this, Nigon. The people will see through your lies." Nigon laughed. "Oh, my dear, the people will believe whatever I tell them to believe, especially once they see their beloved princess confess to her crimes." Peter tensed, ready to spring into action, but Saya's hand on his arm held him back. Not yet. They had to wait for the perfect moment. The next day, they were led to a massive amphitheater packed with Zoralesian citizens. Nigon stood on a raised platform playing to the crowd as he laid out his accusations against Saya and the supposed threat posed by alien infiltrators like Peter. Just as Nigon was reaching the crescendo of his speech, calling for Saya and Peter's immediate execution, a commotion erupted at the back of the crowd. "Now," Saya whispered. In one fluid motion, Peter broke free from his restraints, weakened earlier by one of Kraz's inside agents. He leapt to his feet, addressing the stunned crowd. "People of Zoralis," he shouted, "you've been lied to. Nigon is the true traitor here. We have proof of his crimes." Before Nigon could react, holographic displays flickered to life around the amphitheater. Kraz and his team had done their job well, hacking into the palace systems to broadcast the evidence they'd gathered. The crowd watched in shocked silence as recordings played, showing Nigon conspiring with off-world criminals, plotting to overthrow the royal family, even discussing plans to sell Zoralesian resources to the highest bidder. Nigon's face contorted with rage. "Lies!" he bellowed. "This is all a trick. Guards, seize them!" But the guards hesitated, unsure who to believe. In that moment of confusion, Saya made her move. She stepped forward, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "My people, you know me. I have only ever acted in Zoralis's best interests. Nigon is the one who has betrayed us all. I ask you now to stand with me, to help me restore justice and honor to our world." A hush fell over the amphitheater. For a heartbeat, Peter feared they had miscalculated. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a voice cried out, "Long live Princess Saya!" The chant was taken up by others, swelling until it echoed throughout the entire arena. Nigon's face drained of color as he realized he had lost. In the chaos that followed, Nigon attempted to flee, but Peter was ready. He tackled the usurper, their momentum carrying them both off the raised platform. They grappled on the ground, trading blows. Nigon was stronger, his body enhanced by illegal cybernetics, but Peter fought with the desperate strength of a man with everything to lose. He thought of Saya, of the future they could have together, and found reserves of power he didn't know he possessed. With a final, mighty effort, Peter pinned Nigon to the ground. "It's over," he panted. "You've lost." Guards loyal to Saya swarmed in, taking Nigon into custody. As Peter climbed to his feet, battered but victorious, he found Saya waiting for him. Without a word, she pulled him into a fierce embrace, kissing him soundly as the crowd cheered around them. The days that followed were a blur of activity. Nigon and his co-conspirators were tried and sentenced. Saya was officially crowned as the new ruler of Zoralis, with Peter by her side as her chosen consort. In her first act as queen, Saya declared a new era of openness and cooperation with other worlds. She established diplomatic relations with Earth, paving the way for cultural and technological exchange. Peter found himself thrust into the role of interplanetary ambassador, bridging the gap between his old home and his new one. It was challenging work, but deeply rewarding. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the glittering capital city, Saya turned to Peter with a mischievous glint in her eye. "You know," she said, tracing a finger along his jaw, "I never did finish that thorough examination I started when you first arrived." Peter grinned, pulling her close. "Well, Your Majesty, I am at your service. Perhaps we should retire to your chambers for a more in-depth study." Saya laughed, a sound of pure joy that made Peter's heart soar. As they made their way inside, trading playful touches and heated glances, Peter marveled at the strange twists of fate that had brought him here. He had left everything he knew behind, traveled across the stars, and found something he never knew he was missing. In Saya's arms on this alien world that had become his home, Peter knew he had found his place in the universe. As the door to their chambers slid shut behind them, Peter sent up a silent thank you to whatever cosmic forces had brought him and Saya together. Their love had not only saved a world, it had created a new one, full of endless possibilities. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning. Dear intergalactic eavesdropper, well, well, well. You've made it to the end of our cosmic soap opera. Congratulations. I hope you've enjoyed this tale of alien abduction, royal intrigue, and cross-species canoodling. If you're now considering a career as an extraterrestrial pet, might I suggest investing in some durable, easy-to-remove clothing? You never know when a blue-skinned princess might want to conduct a thorough examination. Remember, folks, the next time you're gazing at the stars, wondering if there's life out there, the answer is yes. And it's probably just as confused, hormonal, and prone to overthrowing governments as we are. If there's one lesson to take away from Peter and Saya's adventure, it's this. Love knows no boundaries, not even the vast, cold expanse of space. So keep your translator handy and your heart open. Your soulmate might just be waiting on a planet far, far away. And hey, if you ever find yourself gifted to an alien royal as a pet, just roll with it. You might end up saving a civilization and getting a crown in the process. Talk about an out-of-this-world promotion. Until our next interstellar tale, keep watching the skies. And maybe practice your royal wave. You never know when you might need it. Yours in cosmic comedy, sci-fantasy PS. If any actual aliens are listening to this, we come in peace. And we'd appreciate it if you didn't go around abducting our citizens for royal gift-giving purposes. We have enough trouble with our own leaders, thank you very much.